Nate Tice is here, Yahoo Sports full time. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Monday, which actually feels like a Monday. Once the season starts, it's just every day is the same day. So right now, it actually feels like a
Every
Monday.
day is the exact same.
Exact same.
Every day is the exact same. And you learn. I had this the other day because I was rewatching some games, college and pro, over the past week, and literally no agenda. Just normally I have an agenda. Normally
Yeah.
I'm just looking to just slime people. But no, on this one I was just like, let's just take a look at some games. And I kind of feel like because every day is the same, you don't appreciate the games. You don't appreciate like, oh my god, there's live action unfurling in front of me. I have no idea what's going to happen. This is the beautiful game. You don't appreciate it until you don't
No,
have it.
that's a great point. And also, from going from watching college players to now jumping back to watching NFL film, like I did this week, and going from watching, you know, South Florida versus Memphis or something of that sort, and then I'm watching that offense
Yeah.
that whatever you want to call it, offensive offense that I have to watch from South Florida. It gets a job done. It gets scores, points, everything. But then I watch the NFL, and even with a team that
Yeah.
didn't do too well, I just watched the Cardinals offense, but I'm bullish on them. But I'm watching it, and it's like, oh, spacing, proper. Oh wow,
Yeah.
look at the route depth. Oh man, there's no
Yeah.
ref at seven
Yeah.
yards about to get run over by
Yeah.
a crossing route. So it was refreshing.
This safety seems to have some vague idea what's happening in front of him.
There's tackling. A guy got tackled, and a really fast guy got tackled.
Wow.
Wow, yeah, and yeah, it was just some lane discipline from defensive players. It was a lot of the fundamental stuff, but no, it was it's nice. Like you said, we're in that doldrum period of May and June where it's like you're just taking any little inkling of fun from past or from future football, and then just extrapolating from there.
What were you in the NCAA video game series
Yeah, I was, and they had me as from Woodbury,
at Wisconsin and UCF?
yeah, at Wisconsin and UCF. They had me from
Wow.
Woodbury,
Wow.
Minnesota. I was not because they would just do your state, but then they would randomize
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
city.
yeah. A
And it
randomized,
was
yeah.
at the time
I mean, they did get sued over it.
yeah. At the time, at the time, my girlfriend was from Woodbury, so I was like, "What the hell?"
Wow.
Yeah. I was not. I was from Edina, but yeah. But it was I was in there. I was in there. I think I was one of the lowest rated players in the entire game. I believe at one point. I think when I was at UCF, I was like a 60 something.
Now,
They made my speed a little bit better than it should have been too, which was nice.
they knew that you had untapped potential. So let me ask you: when you're a low-rated NCAA player, you still stick yourself in and give yourself some reps,
Try
right?
to. Yeah. And then you realize how bad like a 62 overall is. And
So then you were out.
I
You
it
were
was a
out.
spell series, get in there.
So who was the starter? Kyle Israel.
Kyle Israel, yeah. Kyle Israel. Who was
Okay,
decent in
yeah.
that game actually. He
Uh,
was okay.
there you go.
Yeah.
So you just gave it a run, and then you were like, "Let's bring
Let's
up
bring it
Big
in.
Kyle
Bring
back
it in.
here."
This tall, lanky dude.
Yeah.
Bring him in there. But then he was like, yeah, he can move a little bit. They gave me a visor too, which was sweet. That was great. Even though George O'Leary didn't allow visors. But yeah, they gave me a visor. They made me look cool. They really did. But then yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
62 overall. So that wasn't when your throw power is like 55, like an out route
Yeah.
is like impossible in that game. So it's yeah, you realize the tier difference of all that.
It does sound like, and the listener will agree with me. It does sound like you couldn't scheme yourself up.
No,
It seems like maybe you don't know ball.
no. At the time, definitely not. I
Yeah.
was a big fan of using West Virginia Rich Rod offense,
Ah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
so I was no Pat White. It was there was no getting me out in space or running flat routes or anything like that. No, there was none of that happening. No wildcat adjacent plays happening for quarterback number 16 for UCF.
I'm sorry to hear that. I actually probably did play at some point with UCF in that game.
New
Just hometown. My
stadium.
dad's a professor there.
My freshman year,
Yeah,
we had the new
new
stadium. Yeah,
stadium.
yeah, we played
Was
Texas.
that the Texas game?
Texas game, which was a
I
great
was at
game.
that game.
Were you? Oh, that was a
I
great
was
game.
at
Had
that
the
game.
rain
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
delay or the
I'm gonna.
thunderstorm delay.
Yeah, literally, if we start down this path, we're going to do the entire episode. But I actually think about that. I was a student at Miami,
Yep.
and I actually think about that game for like just temporary mania, where it's like I don't actually care about UCF necessarily, but they're in it against Texas, and they might win the
Yep.
first game of the new stadium. I was all in on
Oh.
UCF for like 3 hours. Haven't been before or since, but like I was just so wrapped up in it that I was an honorary Golden Knight for three and a
and
half hours.
and that was they also like no one had any tradition there, like because it's a new school, but
No,
like so they have a new stadium. Now they do the Zombie Nation thing and they made it their own. But they're so you could tell like the PA guy, whoever the house
yeah.
DJ, whatever, they're just trying every kind of like stadium song possible that day. And so that's what I
Hmm.
remember the most, other than the game. Obviously, I was on the sideline, but it was like
Was there Was there a backbreaking Texas onside return? Did that happen?
I don't remember
I'm
that.
trying to
I
remember.
remember the rain
I
delay. I
think it
remember
was
we
a
went for 2. There, it was a great
yeah.
game. Like,
I feel like there was an onside kick return for a touchdown. I feel like that was the
I
backbreaker.
could
But
totally see
maybe I don't know. I don't know. It was
merging them
15 years ago,
together.
17 years ago. Yeah. All right. Let's get out of this. Let's get out of this,
No,
or
it's
else
great. It was great.
we're
No, I
cooked.
love that. I
All
jogged
right.
some definitely some cobwebs there. I was like, God, what was I doing on that sideline? Clapping, waving a towel.
Not paying attention to the
Yeah,
returned
no,
onside
I
kick that I
was.
was locked in on. I was a special teams guru.
That's
I
what,
was
yeah.
like, oh, the lane discipline. Just because you missed the ball. All right.
L3, what are you doing?
Um, all right, so we're doing most exciting. And who cares? Let's
Yeah,
just do least exciting too.
yeah,
Offenses
fine.
of 2024. We're just doing new offenses, okay? New offenses, and this just like happens. When I was on NFL Live, they did a little graphic on how many play callers had turned over in the past 2 years, and it's astounding. You either have an offensive head coach or who calls
Mhm.
plays, or you change play callers every two
Yep.
years, sometimes three, if you get lucky. If one person has a mediocre year the first year and then sticks around for 2 years. But like Bobby Slowick is a great example. The Texans got very, very, very lucky that he just didn't get the perfect fit. The Lions, another example. Ben Johnson
Yeah.
is waiting for the exact right fit. They're getting very lucky. Those are the exceptions, not the rule. So I think that we're in a state now where you basically have to have instant success as an offensive coordinator. If you do, it's a nice problem to have for an offense. But I think we'll get into Tampa Bay here in a second. Dave Canales authors the best sort of rejuvenation story of 2023. Now Liam Cohen comes in and he's got a lot of expectations to keep that
Mhm.
going. And then, by the way, Dave Canales has to do it again with Bryce Young, which, by the way, not to do a video game thing, I'm 4-0 with the Panthers and Madden. I wouldn't worry about
Oh,
it. I just wouldn't worry about it. Just short routes maximize
I
his no pun intended. No pun
I'm
intended.
in a
Um,
user Madden league, Dynasty League, whatever franchise, and I was given a kind of a I had to adopt a
yeah.
team several years in. Bryce Young is my quarterback. I'm the Saints, and I am an RPO heavy, quick game maestro with a strong run game. You guys, ask Stephen Ruiz about my run game. That I
I
was not scared to pound it 27 times with Tyler Algier for 100 yards, 3.7 yards per carry, but let's do a victory.
I'm playing a lot only to get ready for NCAA.
That's what everybody in the league
Yeah.
already admitted, that this
Yeah.
we're nearing the end of this because
Yeah.
we're jumping to the NCAA.
Miami first game is at the Swamp, and that play action deep shot on the first play of the game is going to hit like crack. I'll leave it at that. All right, so let's start. Let's start with the Seahawks because I think that there's a lot here, and it was funny because I had seen a quote Ryan Grubb, the new
Mhm.
OC, gave, who just so everybody knows was in Washington, then went to Alabama for 5 minutes. Now he's Mike McDonald's OC. Mike McDonald understands the modern game. Ryan Grubb is part of that. I had thought about how amazing it is that Ryan Grubb had managed to let three wide receivers eat at the college
Yeah.
level, and now he's going to have to do it at the pro level. And then I saw an amazing quote from him in actually a radio interview a couple of weeks ago where he says he sees a lot of similarities between the three, where Polk is similar to JSN, where great option route
Mhm.
runners get them on a nickel or a safety, let them go. Big body X's and DK Metcalf from Roma Dunze. And then obviously, I think you mentioned Lockett just being a veteran route runner, all that stuff. It kind of breaks down after that. But obviously, they had three top 100
Yeah.
picks, and they were wide receivers. And JSN clearly not happy with the offense last year. So let's start here. Like, what is this supposed to look like and going to look like if Ryan Grubb does his job well and the receivers what we think they are?
It's going to be an aggressive offense, which is why I gravitated towards it. I think a lot of college offenses, we think of them as loosey goosey as far as like, yeah, they're aggressive. They go for on 4th and 6. They do these fun things, but a lot of it's a lot shorter, a lot of quick game because that's what the quarterbacks can handle. A lot of stuff that is
Mm-hmm.
just tacking underneath, boom, boom, quick hitters because okay, get the ball out of their hands, get it to our very fast players with a lot of space. But Grubb's offense at Washington, and why even just studying him throughout the year, just being a football fan and watching a lot of Washington this year, it translates. And because they use a lot of stuff that's realistic to the NFL game, it's not unbalanced formations that are illegal in the NFL. It's true formations that you can use in the NFL. The college game at sometimes can use stuff that breaks defensive rules because they say, "Oh, we're gonna have all four receivers to one side to a short boundary, and we're gonna run at the left tackle, and there's one defender over there, and that's a huge gain." Can't do that
Mhm.
in the NFL with those. But Grubb uses all the good stuff that you want to see in an offense. Tempo, a changing of tempo, I should say. They will go hurry up, but then they
Mhm.
also go hurry up and slow it down. Then they'll just huddle. They use
Mhm.
that very well, using cadence very well. They use the run game too. It's not just all chuck it down the field. The run game is very sound. That's really what it comes down to, is that the rules translate. It's very sound football. It's not gimmicky. There are RPOs, but it's just a sprinkling of RPOs, just like they are in the NFL. It's good play action stuff. It's good drop back stuff. So, like, I'm throwing out all these terms because what I'm trying to say is that
Mhm.
all the stuff that you need in NFL offense, Washington already showed. And yes, the benefit of it all was that they had a really good offensive line, and that allowed them to attack in a lot of different ways too, on top of those really good receivers. But I think how Geno Smith plays, being aggressive down the field, even Sam Howell, the backup now, who I know some fans are like, well, we want him to be the starter. Even how he plays translates to this offense because those guys push the ball, and that's what this offense thrives in. And when you have those receivers, why not? So it's just it's a sound offense that uses new stuff, but all the old stuff has some kind of nice window dressing now. I didn't really provide video examples in my article of it, but just one I thought about was a classic concept. It's called Hank, which is curl flats. Guys sit over the middle. Everybody runs this, some from high school on upwards, and
Mhm.
it's usually just to get 5 yards. It's just to get 5, 7 yards. Get on schedule. Stay on schedule. What they did was,
Mhm.
instead of running little quick flat routes, they ran wheel routes, which are down the field. So
Mm.
Grubb just takes this little simple concept and just goes, "Hey, we're gonna make it a little more aggressive. We're just gonna tweak it up to
Yeah.
11." And he just kind of does that over and over. And that's why I'm optimistic about what this offense, even if the offensive line is going to be, has me hold my breath a little bit. I like the shape that this is taking.
Wow. Okay, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah,
I know, I really am.
I'm
I mean,
too.
like that's and I really think that maybe I'm totally missing this, but I did Mina's pod. It should be out by now, and I did say, and I really like Boston College. I think Jeff Hafley's going to be really good, but I think there's some risk there in just college
Mm,
coaches who've never been NFL coordinators on the defensive side of the ball, just because you've never done it before.
that's
And I
it.
said, where's I would have liked to have seen a Jim Schwartz style, like we know what this is, DC hire for the Packers. That's all. I think it's probably going to work out. I'm just saying there's risk factors. If we're doing
Absolutely.
like the what do you call it, the when you do a corporations risk factors, and you're just like, well, I don't know, this might happen. Like,
This,
hey, I'm just listing risk factors for you, okay,
yeah.
guys. I'm just trying to manage the stock market. On the offensive side of the ball, I see no risk with college OCs, none. Like they're going to have a new set of eyes. They understand aggression. They understand the vertical game. Am I off track here?
No, the hardest translation from going college to NFL is the line, the offensive
Yeah,
line coach, and the same offensive line coach that was at Washington, Scott Huff, is going to be now the Seahawks offensive line coach. That is usually my hesitation because the rules are so like hard in the NFL, so advanced
yeah.
because defenses are so advanced now. That's usually what
Hmm.
happens. That's what happened to Cliff a little bit. Cliff Kingsbury, his first go around, even he had NFL playing experience. But
Yeah.
he kind of, sometimes the protections didn't match with or didn't match with the routes, and the defenses kind of abused it at times. So that's usually my biggest hesitancy, is that one, they use rules that don't translate to the NFL as far as getting broken, as
Hmm.
far as formation stuff, but then also the protection stuff. What Huff showed, yes, they had some talent. They also had two offensive linemen go in the top 100. Is
Hmm.
that those rules translated. Like, again, they actually asked the center to go, you go here, you point here. It wasn't easy and gimmicky. So that's what, again, is why, even though these guys have no NFL experience, they're at least, it's good football. And that's why I think good football is going to just like be okay at the next level. Like, their version of it's going to bump up nicely, I should say.
Love that. All right. So Jalen McMillan was one of those three
Yeah.
receivers. He's now with Tampa Bay Bucks. Let's use that as a
Nice little,
segue.
nice little one.
So it's interesting because I was doing a big deep dive into Liam Cohen, and I'll actually tell a funny story here. I don't know if I've ever told it, that Miami was looking for a new OC a couple of years ago, and Liam Cohen was at his first go round with
Okay.
Kentucky. And someone from the NFL had said, "Hey, this was in like October. They were like, you should really look at Liam Cohen. He's at Kentucky. He's doing this stuff." So I sent it to a couple people, and someone says to me, they said, "Whatever you're doing, stop sending this to people at Miami." And the guy I sent it to did not know who Liam Cohen was, and he said, these are NFL concepts.
Mhm.
This is an NFL guy with NFL play calling, and he's not going to Miami. He's going to the National Football League." And I thought that was kind of a funny thing. And then
He
he
did.
went to the Rams as
Yeah.
OC immediately, but that's not a play calling
Nope.
spot. He goes back to Kentucky to play call again, and now he's at Tampa Bay. The plan completely worked out. This is exactly what he wanted. Now he's going to be able to play calls. He's now going to be able to call plays. He's going to have Baker Mayfield. We know there's spots all over the field where there's talent. Chris Godwin is apparently going back in the slot.
Yeah.
Some of the Bucs reporters have said that he's going to be in the Cooper Cup role, which everything kind of flows through. Godwin went outside under Dave Canales. He's going to be back in it. And then Jalen McMillan, who was in the slot 91% of the time last year, is just going to do something else. Apparently, that's just what that. Who knows what June and May press conferences actually mean, but that seems to be the plan, is that Jalen McMillan will play outside a little bit. I'm sure they'll work him inside as well. It'll be interesting to see. In order for Baker Mayfield to continue his ascent or even stay where he was, Liam Cohen needs to do what, Nate?
Oh, pound the rock. Dave Canales, and he even joked about it with Carolina, was that he was like, "Oh, I'll show you how like addicted I am to running the ball." But what that helped, even though the Bucs had one of the worst, they had the worst run game as far as efficiency wise last year, at least got Baker into more manageable situations when he had to drop back and pass. But that was the one thing that Dave Canales did that I really liked with Baker. Baker at Oklahoma was dropping back and ripping it. He was an air raid quarterback. It was not play action.
Mm-hmm.
It was not put him on the move. It was run and mesh a bunch of times, and he threw the out route. He never bothered with the middle of the field. He just threw out routes to Sterling Shepard, I believe the receiver was. And I'm trying maybe one other guy after that, but they just kept ripping those. So Canales goes, "All right, we're going to run the ball, and then we're going to drop back. We're not going to make Baker turn his back to the defense." That is one little thing with Cohen that I'm a little scared of, is that's what that offense asks their quarterback to do 100 million times, is play action, turn your back to the defense. So how do you blend this together? I kind of think Cohen being with the Rams and being what they had to go through with Stafford and Sean McVay's preferred run game, they kind of had to bridge these two worlds together. So I actually think Cohen knows, all right, we can't really do all this play action stuff I want to do. Like Jared Goff's so good at it. That's like, why, what do you want to use him? He's great turning his back to defense. Joe Burrow never wants his turn back to his defense. I think he did it like 3 times all last year. He did a couple more times than he did previous years, but it's a preference of quarterback thing. So with Cohen and with this Bucs offense, to keep them on schedule, it's not to kind of go like, oh, we got these receivers, we got to rip it. It's to keep it into manageable situations, so you kind of keep bad Baker away, minimize bad Baker and just bring out good Baker. And good Baker to me is, 3rd and 4s as opposed to 3rd and 10s. Let him drop back and have some nice, easy decisions where you can go 1-2, not turn his back. And
third and manageable.
We have
a third and manageable alert from Nate
Tice.
Tice.
But it is huge for Baker. And I think because when Baker's he's a streaky quarterback. When he feels like he has to do something, that's when you're holding on to your hat and going like, all right, here, he's chucking it up. All right, good job, Mike Evans. But that can have some downfalls to it. So I think really Cohen, and I don't think I have to twist Liam Cohen's arm. He is a McVay guy. Everybody in the NFC South is a McVay, Shanahan, Kubiak guy, or literally a Kubiak. So with him, it's just, I think he's going to pound it, but I think just that drop back game has to be clean for Baker. And I think they'll find it because of just what they did with Stafford the last couple of years with the Rams.
It's funny because one thing I've heard consistently, whether it's, Mahomes is a sort of a separate bucket here because he's Andy Reid, but like a lot of those old Big 12 quarterbacks have always felt like they have to do too much because in college they did have to do too much. Yeah. They had to win 60 to 55 games, and they were like, oh, wait, if I don't hit this 14-yard shot right now, the game is over. And like, so I feel like there's a little bit of a
it's Texas gunslinger, not
hero ball.
Not it's not Texas checkdown artist. It's Texas gunslinger.
No. But also, like, I mean, the whole Texas thing. These guys play year round. They play 7-on-7s. They play tight man coverage. Like, they have so much confidence because of the game they play from the time they're 11 years old, where they're in the dirt and they're playing against these cornerbacks. Like, who gets better in 7-on-7s? It's not the center. It's the quarterbacks and the skill guys. It's barely even the cornerbacks because the cornerbacks don't really play.
Running.
in any coherent way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just running up and down.
Yeah.
They're just like they're actually like soccer left backs.
Yeah, that's
Where
right.
they're just like up
Up
and
and down.
down, up and down, up and
Good
down.
rep. Good rep. Hold that flag.
Yeah. Great one, great one. How you feeling? How's the conditioning, bud? No. So anyway, it all
No,
makes
it
sense. All
does.
right, so let's go to Dave Canales.
But I was going to say, I liked your point.
So I'm so
No,
sorry.
but I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say about the personnel stuff. That's such a great point. Is that this Bucks personnel matches for what I think they're going to what he would prefer to do. Liam Cohen, I mean, because Godwin is that power slot. That's what Cooper Kupp is. But McMillan, I agree with you, is mostly a slot player. But he actually was willing to kind of do the dirty work at Washington. That's also why I liked all the Washington receivers. But he was willing to do that, so he can be kind of Puka Nacua-y. I wouldn't say totally. Puka's a little, thicker and a little bit more burly, and McMillan's a little bit more finessey. But I compare him with Christian Kirk a little bit. But I think that the fit in the role actually is the fit for that role actually isn't that bad as I first would maybe think for a slot only quote unquote type of player.
I like that. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. Dave Canales, then we'll do the musical chairs. We're doing all sorts of segues here. So Dave Canales goes to Carolina, and I hesitate to say this because miracles happen in front of us all the time in football. I had Orlovsky on this show in November, and I said, what's the plan for Bryce Young? And he said, the only key is to not get mentally broken, because this isn't even a 2024 fix, it's a 2025 fix. Seeing what we see now, where they overpaid for the lineman, which is exactly what they have to do, and the people clowning the Panthers for that, like, there's only one way forward, guys. Yeah. There's one way forward.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I'm so sorry that they overpaid Robert Hunt. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you little fantasy GMs, your little armchair GMs don't like the value of the deal. Guess what? You have to keep Bryce Young alive. Yes. That's the number one task at hand. Anyway, enough about that. Everybody, I just get so upset when people look at everything in a vacuum.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, nobody wants to go to Carolina right now.
Nope.
Like, I remember John Dorsey told me this years ago, and I think about it all the time, and it didn't necessarily work. But he was talking about why they made the Odell trade. And there's a million reasons why. But one of them, he said, is you have to establish credibility for guys to want to come.
Yeah. So,
like, once you trade for Odell, you tell the league, oh, we're serious. Yeah. And if you don't do that, you have to overpay everybody by $20 million, which I think is a really interesting way to look at it. Now, I think that there's probably some I'm sure that there's some myth making there. Like, I'm sure not everybody's taking discount, but I'm just saying there's going to be teams you're not going to consider. And right now the Panthers might be one of those. Anyway.
Well, players talk too. I mean, that's the thing too, is like when you're a free agent, they're not going to go like, oh, what'd you think of, just making it up, Cleveland. Well, they're cheap, man. They got all these rookies here that, they won't pay anybody. I mean, players talk. I was just reading Winning Fixes Everything. And it was about the Astros, and even then, all the players were talking about. I thought we should have made one splash at the trade deadline. Yeah. Just bring in one more arm, and then we lose, and it's like then they could just start going like, well, you guys didn't help us. We try to but you just don't. You're just trying to always just nip that in the bud. But it's a great point. But also another thing is like you overpay now because you have a quarterback on the rookie contract, so you can overpay these guys by $3 million. And say each. So now it's $6 million. Okay, well, guess what? I'm underpaying my quarterback by $30 million. Okay, this is why I can do these types of things. Yeah, you're trying to keep them upright.
Also, the people are like, well, what if Bryce Young doesn't work? Well, he has to work.
Yeah, that's it.
He has to work.
Have you seen what we invested?
You have much bigger problems. Yeah. You have much bigger problems than whether or not Robert Hunt was a good contract. If Bryce Young
Bryce Young's, I think his number one thing that unravels them is internal pressure, like most quarterbacks. Okay, let's just get big, sturdy guards on the inside just to give him a chance at some pathway to success. That's all they're trying to build right now.
That's all we're trying to build. Trying to build. All right,
one brick at a time.
2024, Dave Canales.
Yes.
He sits Bryce Young down and says, this is what we're doing. What's the best path forward in that conversation, Nate Tice?
Oh, man. Well, the guard influx is actually huge. I do think that, so it actually ties in nicely. What I kind of just hinted at this with the Bucs and what Dave Canales did last year. Even if they were terrible at running the ball, he's going to pound it. But again, you're trying to get Bryce Young not behind the sticks, where it's 3rd and 10, where it's 3rd and 12, it's 2nd and 11. you're getting him to advantageous situations where he can actually perform what he's good at. I think too is using these receivers that they invested in, Xavier Leggett, and last year's Jonathan Mingo, is those
Mhm.
guys to me. Mingo, I like Leggett more than Mingo, but they're more project-y types of receivers. They're best on the runway on what Dane Brugler, who I worked with at the Athletic, he would say runway routes. And I really like that term, is get a path going, get an open space going. Actually works with Bryce Young. He's good at throwing guys on the move. He's good at throwing underneath and creating those yak opportunities. So to me, like picturing like a Bryce Young successful offense, especially with Dave Canales, it's going to look like, it has to look like Alex Smith with the Chiefs. That's what this game. That's what I think this kind of. That's his pathway to success. Just be a BB thrower, super accurate. Maybe not pushing the ball a ton, but taking your shots every once in a while. But get it to these big guys that can move. Even a tight end, Tommy Tremble, isn't like overly big, but he can move.
Mhm.
And then they invested in the running backs. Also, they drafted Jonathan Brooks, which I think it surprised me after what they did to gave to Miles Sanders last year and everything they have. So it looks to me that that's what they're going for. Hey, let's let this guy get the ball out of his hands. Let him be smart. Bryce Young is exceptionally smart at the quarterback position. Let him be smart. Let him be the true point guard of the offense and create a little bit. But to do that, you have to get into advantageous situations to throw those plays underneath. Otherwise, it's 3rd and 10. You throw a crossing route, gets tackled right away. You're punting, So, but if you throw a crossing route 3rd and 4, okay, and it gets tackled, boom, it's right at the sticks. So and you get a first down. So you just those little hidden yards. I think Canales is willing to do it. I think he knows what he bought into. I think, of course, he took this, this job because it's what the Panthers are going through right now. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
this is where we're both at. But I think he's smart enough to know like what he's working with. And I think the guard splash, and again, you can make jokes about, oh, yeah, it's overpaying all that, but it was, to me, a sign of they know what's the way to at least get something out of this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I want to talk about Arthur Smith here for a second. I do want to do. You mentioned Kliff Kingsbury
Mhm.
earlier. To me, I, I think the key there, just very quickly, I just want to do an aside. The key on Kliff Kingsbury with Jaden Daniels is not baby him. It's to do the vertical routes he's good at. He's older. He's thrown a lot of balls in his career. There's certain guys like JJ McCarthy. I think Bo Nix threw 1,200 more passes in college than JJ McCarthy did.
So many.
And there's certain guys where I'm just like, hey, this guy needs to just learn within the system, not make mistakes, all that stuff. I think Jaden needs to hit the ground running. Is there anything there that you see as a scheme fit? I'm not that excited about Kliff in Washington. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of a whiff of a hire. And also, you should be able to say, like Bobby Slowick is the perfect example. Come here, do a great job for a year, and you will be a head coaching candidate. Like that's what you should be. That's how you should market this.
Yeah.
You should not be going for a guy who I don't think would be an OC or a head coach candidate, even if he's really good this year. It just seems kind of uninspiring. Doesn't seem to be that into it. Said he was going to go live in Thailand for 5 years or whatever. And now he's back. He worked for USC last year. Like I don't know. I'm not that amped about it. Anything quickly on kind of that marriage?
Well, that's someone asked me. I went on Logan Paulson's show in Washington, and they asked me like, "What?"
Logan or Grant
Let's say
Paulson?
Logan.
Yeah.
Logan, because they both are in the DC area. Logan, the tight end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yes, they're both. Yes,
I assumed you meant because I go on
and
Grant
I've done Grant's
Paulson's
show
show.
as well. That's why I had.
Logan has never asked me to come on.
Yes, so
Okay, great.
I've done both, but Logan's
I
show.
would go on Logan Paulson's show.
And Logan asked me that, like, oh, who would be the best fit for Kliff? Because at the time it was,
Yeah.
okay, we're talking, all right, is it going to be Drake May? Is it going to be Daniels? And, Caleb was kind of, way out of the talk right at that point, or JJ McCarthy too. And
Yeah.
I actually was just like, I don't know who would be the best fit for Kliff because I don't know what his offense is. I could picture you at the Cardinals, what he did with Kyler. And the best stuff he did with Kyler Murray was the QB run game. And that's not throwing the ball. That's not drop back stuff. It's a lot of, old school air raid plays. And it's a lot of spread out formations that I don't think can really consistently work in the NFL. You can use some of it, but not all the way. And he was 120% invested in that. Was that a Kyler thing where he was like, this is only what he's comfortable with and this is what he likes? Or was this him just, I don't know what I'm doing in the NFL? But I would be more so the last season, the Cardinals is in my mind, especially what was happening at the end, where it was just like they couldn't do anything on offense. But then last year with USC, and I don't know how much input he had, but I'm sure he had a good amount. I was not inspired by USC's offense last year. I thought it was very poor. I thought it lacked detail, and especially at positions, even if he said, I'm not in control of the offensive line, which had issues, Well, then I'm looking at receivers running two guys running the same route or with poor depth, with bad spacing or something underneath. So I'm agreeing with you where it was an uninspired hire to me. I'm not saying that he doesn't maybe get him on the staff as a quarterback coach or something like that. But to say,
Sure.
so when I'm looking at this marriage and what Daniels does, he operates really well in quick game. He operates really well in these kind of 3-by-1 sets that Kliff really likes. So that's where I picture it's like that. I could see that marriage working really well. I see some of the
Yeah.
QB run game stuff working, but the thing is, Kyler is like Wayne Gretzky where he doesn't get hit, but
Hmm.
I mean, Daniels' closest equivalent is Johnny Knoxville. So it's like,
Right.
so it's just like that has me a little worried.
Yeah.
And so it just, yeah, it's not, I've always been kind of a little lower on Kliff. I do think there are some interesting things that he does, but I also just think there's a lot of lack of detail in these offenses that makes me without, especially with oversight, there's not some vet coach there that's like, oh, they're kind of counteracting each other. Dan Quinn's a defensive coach. He's going to let him have free reign. Okay, maybe when he's just the OC, he can have a little more detail with it. But so far, his resume hasn't showed that. So yeah, I'm a little kind of hesitant right now.
The leap he took on vertical routes, slot seam
Soft,
routes
yeah,
from
yeah.
2022 to 2023 is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And so I just want to see more of that. Do what I don't know. Maybe I'm overlooking this. I've just never seen a Kliff offense where I'm like, this is super tailored to this quarterback.
No,
I've never
the
seen
same
that,
stuff.
and so
Yeah,
surprise me,
yeah,
surprise me,
yeah.
Kliff.
Right?
I don't know,
Yeah,
surprise me,
yeah. Show me something new, Kliff.
surprise me. All right, we'll end on this. It's Arthur Smith, who I have to keep reminding people was a good
Yes, he
OC,
was.
probably is a good OC, will be again. What's this going to look like, man?
Oh, I when writing, I kind of was like glass half full going into writing this article about the Steelers. I'm like, okay, but really diving into it, looking at the roster, knowing what I'm also an Arthur Smith fan as a play caller. I really am. I think he does some of the coolest stuff in the league. As a play caller and play designer, I like this a lot in Pittsburgh land, in Yinzer land. I kind of really like this run game, what the potential it could be. I liked what Steelers did this offseason, especially in the draft. They said, we're not taking one lineman, we're taking two linemen. We're taking three linemen in the draft in the first 4 rounds, including two guys that Zach Frazier for West Virginia, they took in the second round. He's a day
Mhm.
one starter at center. And it's not
Bruce
translating.
Feldman's steal of the draft on this show last
Was
month.
it's day one starter. Like boom, his limitations, quote unquote, is that you can't really picture him at guard, but that's because he's a starting center. So you're good there. But then also Troy Fatnu from Washington, who I
Mhm.
friggin' love. They have him at left tackle, which I have thought that yeah he could stay out at left tackle. Some like him better at guard.
Mhm.
I thought he had long arms. He was a great athlete. Had some of the best. Yeah, take this with a grain of salt, but watching him at the combine and watching him move and stuff, it was like super impressive as that could be. It's only a 1% bump, but still, he filled out that 1%. But so looking at the offensive line, looking at even the tight end group, you got Darnell Washington they took last year, who is essentially an extra offensive tackle, and then you got two running backs, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, and Warren to me actually is probably the better player. But you got those two guys. Yeah, I know it's a little spicy take, but
No, no,
it's a spicy take to
it's not unheard
Pittsburgh
of.
fans, to Steelers fans, but
Sure,
everybody
sure.
outside, I think, is on the same page here.
I think when you have any star player, it takes a year for anybody to make any big
It's the delay.
proclamations
Yep.
in any direction.
Yep.
Like I remember, I remember, and this is not a one-to-one analogy, but I remember at one point I was on a show, maybe it was Cowherd. I was like, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott can't give you anything, but he was still with Dallas, and people were in my mentions like, excuse me, did you just say Ezekiel Elliott can't give you? And I'm like, yeah, I thought we knew
We're
that,
good here.
and it's like a lot of times the big name, it just takes a while for people
It's a
to
delay.
to catch on. I still think Najee Harris has
Yeah.
something. It's
He's
not an
fine.
Ezekiel Elliott situation, but I don't think that that's an uncommon take in the league that Jalen Warren would be better.
No. And there's stretches of good play with both, but I think Warren's there's a little bit more. I think Harris got he got, his trip to Canada the last couple of years has maybe developed some scar tissue, but some maple scar tissue. But so that's two running backs that can play all three downs. So that's why I like it with Arthur Smith. Tight ends make sense with Fryermuth, Washington. Receivers make sense. You got Pickens, who's a ball winner. Pickens is willing to block. Even their third round pick this year, Roman Wilson from Michigan, loves to block,
Yep.
loves to do the dirty work.
Yep.
I'm avoiding talking about the quarterbacks because that is where the one hesitancy comes. I think this run game is going to be fantastic. I really do. I'm very optimistic about that. Even with their younger offensive line, Broderick Jones at right tackle had some really good moments too last year, the first round pick. But the passing game, there's some square peg round hole here. Is that Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields kind of play very similar. They both are best play action quarterbacks that launch the ball down the field. They're best as creators and runners. Russell has kind of tempered that down the last couple of years. They don't throw over the middle. They don't throw great in quick game, which is fine. And this offense doesn't use quick game, but that play action stuff that Arthur Smith loves. Picture Ryan Tannehill with the Titans. Even picture Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder the last couple of years. No one watched, but I did. The last couple of years is they do the play action. They rip that ball over the middle.
Yeah.
Play action, rip the ball over the middle. Play action, rip the ball over the middle. You have to stand there and deliver. That is the antithesis of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Now, this is, to me, going to be a fun experiment because how does Arthur Smith mitigate that? How does he lean? Because he shows that he'll gravitate the passing game to his quarterbacks. So is it just going to be all downfield stuff? Is it all going to be George Pickens sideline stuff? So I'm curious how that merges. But overall, I see the baseline of this offense being very high with chances of catching fire some weeks when Russell and or Justin Fields pushes the ball and gets those explosive plays. Also, last thing, really like Justin Fields in the QB run game. Arthur Smith uses the QBs in a really good way, really efficient way, especially near the red zone. So Justin Fields is probably one of the best QB runners in the league, one of the best weapons with his legs. So that's one little sprinkling thing I'm curious to see how they use, where he gets 3-4 touches a game and probably really good ones too.
When Aaron Rodgers was learning to stand, deliver, and a lot of blind throws, a lot of blind throws in that offense, in LaFleur offense. Do you know who he studied?
Ooh, probably one of the cousins. Maybe?
He said best to ever do it.
Oh,
no, it's Ryan Tannehill.
Tannehill. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Just stand in there and fire it over the middle
and take
Aaron
a hit.
Rodgers is like I don't know if he said he's him, but he might as well have said he's him. Like he loved watching Ryan Tannehill just throw those darts over the middle, totally blind. And that's Arthur Smith. That's obviously LaFleur before that, but like that's what you want in a Arthur Smith quarterback.
Someone asked me like what it takes to throw that one time, and I've struggled until right now to maybe think of what it is. Did you see the Tony Hawk documentary Until the Wheels Come Off on HBO?
No,
it's phenomenal.
No. You
should. You actually should. They're talking about the McTwist, which is the 540, and you have to land backwards on it. And they're talking about how you land that, and they're interviewing a skater, and they're like, "What's the technique you use?" And he goes, "Balls." It just takes balls. That's it is. You have to stick it and just know I'm going to stick this. That's what making that throw is. I have to stand here and throw it to that hash. Hopefully it's going to work. And then once the coach needs to get that buy-in from the player. Ryan Tannehill came at the perfect time in his career. Okay, I'll do it. All right, I'll stand there and throw it. Whatever you say, Arthur. And then, this is working. Holy crap, I got paid. This is awesome. But it takes buy-in. So what you're talking about the Aaron Rodgers is like, it probably took some buy-in. Like, hey, stand and deliver. When you watch Purdy and Tua do it, I'd buy in too when I see those guys run for 50 yards and a touchdown after I throw in there and take that hit. So no, it's a great point to make.
You are so good at your job. I'm so glad you're at Yahoo Sports and you're thriving. I just really enjoyed the last 40 minutes. Anything you got coming up we need to plug?
Nothing. Just check me out on Yahoo. We'll have the podcast rotation coming up.
When do you start potting?
I'll sprinkle in some features next month, on some other people's mixtapes. And then I'll have my
we've not announced what the plan will be.
We have not. I'll have more answers. I'll have more answers soon. Yes, that's all I can say. But we'll
have you on to plug that podcast.
Perfect.
I've got some ideas.
Okay, perfect. No, but plenty of writing stuff coming up, and we'll have more to announce in the coming weeks.
One of the best people in this industry, Nate Tice. Thank you so much, man.
Oh, thank you so much, Kevin.